In today's curl routine, I'm going to walk you through step by step how I got this definition in my hair when I started here. My name is Gal and I'm a Canadian curly girl helping you get your best curls. Let's start things off by saturating your hair with water, and then I go in and spray it with a leave-in conditioner. I'll link this product in the description box for you. It gives me a really great slip for detangling, and then I just use a paddle brush or any detangling brush that you want. It is really tangled today, so I will go through and work in sections, detangling the very tips of the hair and then slowly working upwards as I get rid of the knots at the bottom so as not to put too much tension on that hair. You never want to pull on it because it's really fragile when it's wet and prone to breakage. Once my hair is fully detangled, I section it before I go in and add products. This makes sure that the product is evenly distributed throughout your hair strand. This is Cake the Curl Whip Mousse. It provides a really good cast with some definition. It's super lightweight, won't weigh down your curls, and it's great for volume. I do find though that the hold doesn't last very long, so I don't only use mousse. I like to pair it with a gel, and in this case, it's the Irish Sea Moss Gel by Les Grands. This is one of those holy grail products I'm totally obsessed with. I add it in sections the same, make sure it's fully distributed, and I swear even after 3-4 days, this is gonna keep your hair so hydrated and soft even if you're in a super dry climate. Apparently it's really great in humidity too, but I haven't had a chance to try that. Now, I love using the Denman Brush D4 at this point to go in and evenly distribute all of that product because of the tension created from the rubber backing. If it is starting to get dry, make sure you go in with a spray bottle. Make sure your hair is totally soaking wet before we get into this next part. Now, while I start styling in the background, you're gonna notice my curls are stringy today. It might have been from the products I chose. It might be because my hair needs protein. Whatever the reason, I'm gonna use 3 different techniques to help my curls clump. The first is what you're seeing me doing right now. It's ribbon curls. You pinch the hair near the root, holding the brush underneath and brush through with tension. I like to angle the brush as I'm pulling through to add a little bit more tension, and it helps those curls clump together. What we're doing is removing the frizz and hopefully adding some definition. If the curl doesn't immediately bounce back, give it that little shake until the curl pattern is revived. Scrunching can also help with this. The second technique I learned from another YouTuber who I'm going to link in the description. This one is great for hair that's misbehaving and being very stringy, and it's called shingling. More commonly used with hair that's 3B or curlier. I just go over the section with my index finger and thumb, pinching it along the length. This is great if the Denman brush is leaving your hair stringy. I'm sure I'm not doing it perfectly. I'm pretty new to it, but since my hair is a little bit less curly, I give it a little shake or a twirl afterwards to revive the curl pattern. After styling this section, I felt like there wasn't quite as much product as I wanted, so I'm gonna go in and add a little bit more gel. You'll notice me do this throughout the rest of this tutorial. It's not necessary if you added enough gel in the beginning. I'm also gonna keep re-wetting sections just to keep my hair soaking wet, and this again will help with your curls clumping. Here you see me doing the third technique that I used. This is brush curls, where I wrap the hair around the handle. I'm gonna link a tutorial to this in the description because it's so important that you don't wrap around the bristles, and I don't want you guys cutting the brush out of your hair. It's very helpful to detect the natural curl pattern first before you do the brush curl, and that you go with the natural curl pattern to make sure you're not fighting your curl pattern. I like to use very small sections, and I use this technique sparsely because it does create very chunky, very perfect curls. Once your hair is 100% dry, you're gonna have to keep going in and breaking those up because the curl clumps will want to keep reforming. So they're great to add sporadically around the top layer of your head where they're very visible because they're such perfect ringlets. They will help with that overall look, but I like to mix them up with other techniques as well. You saw as I was sectioning, I like to start with that bottom section, but as I get closer to the very top section, I'm working in smaller and smaller sections, and this just helps me, especially at the back, if I can't visibly see what I'm doing. At the very top of the head, again, just like I've done with every other section, I'm adding lots of gel, I'm making sure it's soaking wet, I'm detangling with a paddle brush before I go in with the Denman brush. And really in this top section, you're gonna see me doing a mix of all of the different techniques. I don't want these clumps to reform too much because they're gonna be so visible. And I also want a little bit more volume here. So you'll see a little bit of scrunching mixed in with all of the other techniques. Again, I'm working in very small sections here. I also have a few crowns where the curl direction changes around this part of my head, and that's another reason I work in such small sections here, so that I'm never trying to make a curl go in the opposite direction of the direction it wants to go. You can see the curl direction split in my bangs there. You'll also notice the hair at the very top of my head, I style it forwards. I could style it from side to side, but by styling it all forwards, once it's fully dry, it kind of creates a kink right at the root once I do lay it back to the side. So this gives me a little bit more volume at the root. Once I've gone through and styled all of the wet curls, I use a blow dryer and a diffuser attachment to dry my hair. This is my favorite blow dryer. This is the Lust Brands one. I start by blow drying the roots upside down, which helps the roots to dry in that position, which makes such a difference in creating volume. Once the roots are dry, I hover diffuse by holding the diffuser 10 to 15 centimeters away from my hair. This creates the least amount of frizz, and you can safely use a higher heat with this technique. Once my hair has started to get crunchy and I have that cast formed, I'm going to pixie diffuse, where I use the mouth of the diffuser to scrunch in all of the ringlets and press them up closer to my head. Most curly folks will turn down the heat when you do this technique because it's a little bit closer to your hair strands. I love this blow dryer because it's so long, so the ends of my hair don't get caught in the back, which is always a terrifying moment. At this point, once your cast is formed, it's time to scrunch out that crunch. I use a Garnier Fructis Sleek and Shine Anti-Frizz Serum, and I'm gonna go in and alternate between scrunching out with my hands to break that cast and pixie diffusing. Even when I think my hair is 100% dry and the cast is hard, once I start scrunching, I notice the center of those curl clumps is still wet. And if you scrunch out a damp cast, you're gonna lose all of that definition and it's going to create frizz. I'm left with these defined, chunky curls. I just put a little bit more hair oil on my hands and I go through and break up all of those curl clumps. Don't be afraid to keep going in with the pixie diffuser if you notice that anything is still wet. Breaking up those curl clumps is gonna bring the volume back into your hair. Once I've gone through and broken up any of the curl clumps that I think are too big for my taste, I shake my curls out upside down and spray all over with an alcohol-free hairspray. I swear this gives me an extra 2 days of hold out of my style. Here's the before, and here is that after. Do you like the definition I got, or do you prefer the more voluminous wavy curls I had at the beginning? And if you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe.